I agree. I feel the same way you do. And, and I'll just say about, I have a good relationship with Charlie Baker. I have a good relationship with Bill Weld. I've worked with John McCain. And, the fact that we have a White House that disparages John McCain, a war hero, I'm like, this is so beyond what is acceptable. But what worries me is that so many people are saying, no big deal. No big deal, right? We can't allow this to be normal. I mean, we just can't allow this to be normal. And I'm worried about our institutions, the checks and balances. I'm worried about, we have a press that is functioning. And you'll talk to reporters now and they'll tell you, especially those that cover the White House, they're getting death threats now. Now, look, we're all human beings, right? So, you're a reporter, you get a spouse and kids at home and you're getting death threats, or your kids are getting, threats, for you in school, you might think, well, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm gonna do something different. Congress, I mean, again, the complicity, the quiet, the relative quiet of Congress in the face of some of these outrages is unbelievable. Congress needs to do oversight, right? So oversight means when, you get this guy who's the head of the EPA who's like spending tens of thousands of dollars to build soundproof booths and you're the administrative EPA, you're not the CIA, what are you doing here? We're $31,000 desk in somebody's office, all this kind of stuff. Congress should step up and say, look, let's examine, what you're doing here, and whether or not that makes sense. We're not.
Why?
Right? Because the people who are in control the agenda. They will not. We have begged and asked for oversight hearings on a whole range of things. The violation of the Emoluments Clause. There's more conflicts of interest going on here than you can imagine, right? And nothing. And here's the deal. So, a lot of my Republican friends.
I had to, because I work in the prison, and I'm working with Joe,
Right.
to work in this agency, I had to get waivers from both sides of the transaction not to be a conflict of interest.
Right.
We don't even get to look at the president's tax return.
Right.
I
So,
mean,
right. So
I don't get it.
So the deal is that they're circling the wagons around them, and they control everything.
Do they tell you privately?
Yeah, privately, people will say to me, you know what, this is crazy,
But they won't do anything.
and they won't do anything because they're afraid. And look, if you were a Republican running for re-election, and you had a primary, and you looked at his poll numbers amongst likely Republican primary voters, his numbers are in the 80s. Higher than the highest of any Republican president in recent history amongst Republicans. So you can't advance to a general election if you don't win your primary. And you see Mark Sanford, the former governor of South Carolina, was a congressman. I mean, he voted with Trump 98% of the time, but he made a comment that Trump didn't like about one of the many outrages that come out of his Twitter account. And so Trump, told all his people, go against him, he lost. But here's what I tell people. I mean, I really, I'm not, again, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I feel very much like you do. I feel like this is a moment in time that is similar to like when Joseph McCarthy was on the rise in this country during the Red Scare. A lot of bullying. You go against me, I'll destroy you. Yeah. And and people were afraid. People didn't say anything.
I think that 3 more years.
Yeah. No one said anything, except a Republican senator, a woman from Maine, Margaret Chase Smith, took the lead and said, "This guy is, this is wrong." And it took a while, but others followed. And then, as more and more people stood up to him, he began to disintegrate. I think this is one of these moments. I mean, what do you do when you're confronted with a bully? If you ignore the bully doesn't go away. The bully gets more powerful. Yeah, absolutely. He's more powerful. And I think that's what's happening here. And I gotta tell you, I mean, that a president of the United States tweets the way he does and says the things he does. I mean, I always tell I ask my Republican friends, when you go home to your district, do you say, and here's the president of the United States, he's a role model for our children? I mean, can you, I disagree with George W. Bush on a lot of things, but I can tell you he was a role model. I mean, he was a decent man. I disagree with a lot of his policies, but I don't, same with his father. I disagree a lot with Ronald Reagan, but a decent man. I mean, we can disagree with policies, but we don't disagree that these people actually care about this country. And I feel like we get a guy who cares about himself.
Correct.
And it's hard to figure out how to navigate this because he sucks all the oxygen out of the air. And so, when people at the previous say, well, why aren't you doing this message and that message? We're trying to get messages out all the time. But when you wake up in the morning, his first tweet, dominates the news. And by the time you have lunch, there's been 2 other tweets that have dominated the news. And then by the time you go to bed, you're ready to, jump out of the window. The bottom line is the news media is consumed with that. We had a meeting with some people, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, and they would try to give us tips and you should do this. I said, look, let me say it to you. Cover what's important. Because what's happening is he knows exactly what he's doing. He throws a lot of crazy stuff out there, and you all gravitate toward it. For example, it's important that right now he's trying to get courts to overturn the Protection and the Affordable Care Act, which says if you have a pre-existing condition, you cannot be discriminated against. You cannot be denied insurance. You cannot be charged more. He's trying to get that overturned. That is a big deal to a lot of my constituents and to people all across the country. Focus on that. When he tweets about Meryl Streep, you know what? I love Meryl Streep, but stop talking about it, right? We can respond to that, on social media. But focus in on what really matters to people, because we're forgetting that. We're losing that. I mean, they do talk about privatizing Social Security. They do talk about voucherizing Medicare. They want to cut Medicaid. Hey, we have an opiate crisis in this country. And guess what? Substance use disorder is a pre-existing condition. So if you took away the protections, for people with pre-existing conditions, how are people going to deal with this? He wants to cut Medicaid, which again funds a lot of the, the treatments and the care we give people who battle with opiates. You cut that, forget it. I mean, people are just going to die. I mean, that's important, right? These are important things, and he is the master at distracting us, on everything. And we need to figure out what the right balance is, and we have to have the discipline, which we do not have right now. But I agree with you. I worry. I mean, someone said to me earlier, you look tired. Are you sleeping? I says, I sleep like a baby. I get up every 2 hours screaming. Right? That's kind of where we're at right now. And what I worry about most, I'm gonna just tell you, what does wake me up at night is I think people are feeling so overwhelmed and so inundated that people may withdraw. I had a woman on an airplane who said to me, my morning routine used to be I get up in the morning, make my coffee, get my kids to school, read the news, read the paper, watch the news, and go to work. She said, my routine now is I get up, I make coffee, I get my kids to school, I go to work, and I listen to classical music in the car. She says, I pulled the shade, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, this is what their plan is, right? You're gonna be so overwhelmed and so frustrated that you're gonna say it doesn't matter, right? And they win, right? They win. And she says, I don't know what to do. I said, well, how about an Irish coffee in the morning, and then we can work our way for the rest of the day. It might be a little easier. But that is what I mean, I think if there's a turn in the election, I think it sends a message. I think things begin to start to change. But people need to be engaged, and people need to be engaged locally. I mean, and we all talk about Washington. We need to be engaged locally. So when you go into a Dunkin' Donuts, and somebody is saying something that you know is not true, we need to engage these people. When at family functions, you know, I mean, I used to, for the sake, so I didn't give my mother indigestion, I just let some of my cousins go on and on and on about stuff that I know was wrong, right? But you know, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's, you know, whatever, you don't wanna, you know, be like, bring politics into it. I've stopped that now. I now engage. I mean, because my kids are there. And I don't want my kids to believe that some of the stuff that's being repeated, I mean, like the gentleman here is saying, you don't pay Social Security taxes. I do. I don't know what the hell, I mean, I'm telling you I do. And yet, we're somewhere online somewhere, it says that members of Congress don't pay Social Security taxes. It just, you know, we're dealing with this kind of crazy culture. You know, this is a table, right? I think we all should be agreeing on some facts. Like, this is a table. So if you said it's a chair, we should all say, no, it's a table, right? In Washington right now, this is a table, and if Donald Trump says it's a chair, everybody's like trying to defend, no, he's right, it's technically a chair, you could actually sit on, I mean, it's crazy, yeah.
I mean, things like that are very straightforward and simple.